The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is your classroom setup. It is so exciting walking into your first classroom for the first time and thinking about how you're going to make it your own. Here are a few things you might want to think about adding into your new space. The first thing I recommend right off the bat is a safe space. It's an area where students can go if they need a little extra time calming down if they're upset or overstimulated. If you work in a school that tends to have a higher population of students with trauma, or your school practices conscious discipline, you're more than likely going to be given some tools to add to your safe space. If you're not, a soft rug or a chair and sensory toys can also do the trick. I like to add some drawing materials and a feeling exposure to my own safe space. You want to try to set your safe space up where your students have some privacy, so mine is between a file cabinet and a shelf, so that way I can still watch them, but they're not in full view of their peers. I go over the safe space during the first week of school. My students understand it is not a place to play, and they have to have my permission to go there. They also understand they cannot use a safe space to get out of doing work, and that after they've calmed down, they will need to rejoin the group. In my experience, a lot of my more impulsive students have used a safe space as a stop and think area to keep them from making choices that could hurt themselves or others. I highly recommend this in any classroom setting, and it's always worked very well. We'll go over supply storage next. Now, early childhood classrooms normally have large tables for students to sit at, and usually you're going to have bins for supplies to go in the middle. Now, this is just my experience, but community supplies have always worked much better than having students use individual pencil boxes. There's fewer arguments because everything belongs to everyone, and there's fewer instances of stealing because students can't take supplies or food and hide it in their boxes. Supplies are also treated more respectfully because they're out in the open and students can see them versus being hidden away in a box. And there's also some peer pressure because if a student breaks crayons or doesn't cap up the glue, that impacts the whole table and not just them. Now, I usually sort all of my student supplies into bins at the start of the school year, and I replace them as they run low. And I always make sure to disinfect my bins and think that every day is needed. You can just use Lysol spray. It's easy to do. You also want to make sure you're able to move the bins out of the way very quickly because chances are good you'll be using the same tables for work time, centers, crafts, or even mealtime. It's going to save you a lot of time if you can just pick up the whole bin and set it somewhere else. Dollar Tree has large colored baskets that hold all my student supplies, and they work great for this. Now, these baskets also have holes, which I use to attach my students' name tags to the binder clip. This has been wonderful with making sure the name tags don't get torn up or messy, and because you're going to switch students' seats around very often, it gives you a quick and easy way to do it instead of ripping their whole name tag off their desk. While we're talking about storage, please make sure you label your bins. Supply bins, manipulatives, anything you're going to be using on a regular basis. Early education classrooms are usually packed to the brim with materials, and it is very easy to lose track of where things are, even in an organized classroom. Keep in mind that you're also going to be working with other adults like aides, substitutes, or push and support specialists, and you want to make it easy for them to know where things are and get them if they need to. I like to laminate my labels and duct tape them to my bins, but sticker labels work just as well. I also make sure I'm storing similar types of materials in the same area so I'm not grabbing them from all over the place during a math or a reading lesson. So I have a math zone, I have a book nook, helps out a lot. Another classroom lifesaver has been carpet dots. Now, most will have packs of 5 or 6 of each color, so they're great for making assigned spaces. I had a group last year that really needed the extra structure, so they sat in color-coded rows that matched their table colors, so they were always around peers they got along with and did not get distracted by. This also worked great for creating lineup spots near the door or marking places near a water table or word wall so the areas don't get too crowded and you can limit who goes there. A focus wall is always a good idea to have up. Now, I have mine near our rug for circle time, and I've actually got 2 spaces. A wall for our calendar, days of the week and our seasons, and another wall for more academic content like letters, sight words, numbers, and quick example of things we're learning like rhymes or patterns. I try not to keep it too cluttered so my kids don't get overwhelmed looking at it, but it is a nice thing to include during the beginning of the day or end of day reviews. Now, pocket charts are great for these because they can be switched out very easily as you change content. Another thing I recommend for your classroom is data walls. If you're in an elementary school, these might be required by your principal or at least highly encouraged, but at any level, they're a good way to get your students excited about making progress and take a little more ownership over their learning. In kindergarten, I like to show my students progress with their sight words and iReady goals. These can be designed however you want, and you can have a lot of fun with them. In my school, sight words are called bubblegum words, and we have color-coded lists. So whenever a student memorizes all 10 words on the list, they get a colored sticker to add to their gumball machine, plus a real gumball. I do my best to celebrate all progress being made, and it means a lot when a student can finally add on a sticker to their gumball machine or move their rocket ship or race car closer to their iReady goal. Now, these last few examples are just random things I use throughout the year for specific students. Not all of my students have needed all these supports, but they do pop up and they're helpful to know just in case. For students who elope from the room, I recommend a taped area where it's okay for them to wander around. Usually it's by their seat or some other spot that won't be too distracting. And in more extreme cases, I have used child locks to keep them safe in the room. Other students have also benefited from break passes. This helps if you have a student who's nonverbal or has other special needs. They let me know they needed a break or getting overwhelmed by showing me the pass, and I was able to call the office and get them some help. This is a lot safer than just having them leave the room on their own and then me not know where they were. For students who get really distracted or try to pull out supplies when you're not using them, just covering them up can go a long way. Now, I've seen people do everything from curtain rods to just tipping books or paper over a shelf so students cannot see what's inside. No matter how you do it, it's very helpful because for whatever reason, if they don't see it, they don't think about it. And for students who crowd around water fountains and bathrooms, which is very big in my classroom last year, waiting stairs are a must. They'd suddenly all have to go at once and would get very disruptive during lessons. So I put a chair in my fountain and a chair in my bathroom, and only one person was allowed to wait in it while a friend was using it. This kept the students from trying to go at the same time, and it kept them focused in the lesson because they understood if it was not their turn in the waiting chair, they had to stay with us till the chair opened up. So hopefully, I've given you some ideas on things you can include in your classroom, and I really hope you have fun getting